Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing perhaps the most interesting modern Jaeger-LeCoultre family and the most interesting watch within it. This is the Jaeger-LeCoultre Duometre, a chronograph. A limited edition watch from 2007 that became a standard production watch. The model we're looking at today was the series production rose gold, albeit with the less common solid dial. Now it's a big watch on my wrist. 16 centimeters circumference is my wrist, and this is a 42 millimeter watch. 13.7 millimeters thick. It's not quite as thick as it looks. It does have a very sheer vintage inspired case flank, but it will fit underneath a dress sleeve or cuff. Lug to lug, the watch is nicely constrained. They keep it down to 50.3 millimeters, which means I can endorse this watch for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. The spacing between the lugs is a modern and broad 21 millimeters. The strap's a substantial piece. Now we get close and we can see some of the details, but it is thickly bolstered. It is large scale alligator leather, monotone stitch. You can see it's a folded edge, calfskin on the underside. This is a new JLC factory strap, so the condition is impeccable. And you can see back then, JLC was equipping all of the Duometre models with full deployant clasps. Over the years, incredibly, that has become the exception rather than the rule. So these days, they've tried to pare costs a bit and keep retail down by using pin buckles. Back in the day, the original Duometre models always featured a full clasp, and that's exactly what you get right here. It's also a nice piece, double fold, friendly for a small wrist, and arced to trace the underside of your wrist, which is always soft and curvaceous. The watch is handsome and complex. In profile, you can see a few of my favorite Duometre styling nuances. First, note that on its flank, the moonpusher is actually satin finished. On its hood, it's polished. Check out the crown. It has a double knurling pattern on the outside that's just a pleasure to grip. And look at its cap. You have a combination of relieved and polished JL logo. There's a polished surround, and then there's a blasted center. There's a very small and almost invisible transitional bevel that smooths the hoods to the flanks of the lugs. And then you can see the lugs are very dramatically set out from the caseband. This is welded lug construction at its best, with the lug welded on and then all material from the soldering removed to create a clean break so that you have double finish, black polish on the lug flank and satin finish on the case, and the two never blur one into the other. There's a polished conical style bezel. This is the first generation Duometre bezel. Before it became a domed bezel, it was a conical bezel with a little more of a angular plane rather than an arced plane. Now you can see the dial is surprisingly detailed. They look flat when you see them in the soldier shots head-on in the internet. Here you can see that is anything but the case. The seconds track outboard is nicely stepped up from the center dial. The center dial features a recess for the 1/6 of a second register, and you can see a double step for both chronograph as well as civil time. Two power reserves, both of them 50 hours. You actually wind the watch by turning the crown in different directions. Each power reserve is good for 50 hours, and you must have both wound to operate the other. Now the system has center seconds for both the time of day as well as chrono time, and this is wonderful because it makes it very easy to read chronograph seconds down to a fraction of a second, and we are talking 1/6 of a second, which you can read off the scale radially, or you can read off the foudroyant scale at center. Reset, restart, and that's how you read it. Everything that's blue is the chronograph time. Everything that's rose gold is the time of day. So you can see there's a mono counter with both the chronograph hours and minutes, and then there's actually a single digits minute register. It is a digital scrolling register, so you can read the singles. So you have hours, tens of minutes, and then singles all on a single register. Applique, quarter Arabic, applique, JLC logo, applique, numeral plate, or I should say caliber number identification plate, and on the back there's the caliber. This is as good as it gets, guys. This is the dual wing caliber 380, 49 jewels, 380 parts. It features twin barrels, one for the chronograph, one for the time of day. The idea being that when you double the power requirement by activating the chronograph, you also double the power applied to the entire train, with one barrel handling the escapement and the time, and one barrel handling the chronograph. by using two barrels and two separate drivetrains regulated by a single lever, what you wind up with is two separate movements, i.e. dual wing, inside one case. So it's able to haul the iron, operating both chronograph and time of day without losing amplitude or power reserve. It retains both. Now you can see that there is a large and nicely polished column wheel with levers and horns interacting that ensures this is a very crisp chronograph to operate. You'll also appreciate the fact that the balance is oversized, 10.1 milligrams per centimeter squared. That's considered to be a very large polar moment or inertia for a balance. It's also free sprung, so it's highly shock resistant, and then it beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour or 6 times a second, so it has a nice stately vintage inspired beat rate. This movement was actually inspired by a Heritage Gallery piece from the JLC Museum that was a minute repeating chronometer from the 1880s, and it used the same system based on a Victorin Piguet Bausch, twin power reserves, twin drivetrains, and one regulator. You can see the decoration is outstanding. The bridges themselves are made of Myshore, which would be known as German silver in Alanga. It's nickel, copper, zinc, and it's untreated, which is why the movement has this glorious golden hue. It also has a Côte de Soleil, or radiant Côte de Genève, that emanates outward from the balance as the imaginary center point. You can see that across the bridges. The edge, and you can see the edge of every bridge lighting up as I turn it flush to the camera. This is not the standard JLC machined bevel. This is hand-laid, rounded, optically smooth, black polished anglage, and you'll note two different types of screws. Polished screws, which are used within the operative mechanism. They're actually used for adjusting the watch, the chronograph, and civil time. And then you have blued screws, which are used to assemble fixtures and hold them in place. So you have your blued, kiln-fired, oxidized assembly screws, and then you also have your black polished screw heads. Guys, this is as good as it gets. All of it water resistant to 50 meters, solidly more than you would ever expect in a dress watch. The most important modern Jaeger-LeCoultre, and again, this version with the solid rather than the skeletonized dial, is generally considered to be the connoisseur's choice, and it is the scarcer of the two versions. See it and live the dream on the Watchbox.